What's up guys, War History Geek here, and welcome back to another new acquisitions video. This one's going to be a little long as we're going to be covering everything from about Thanksgiving of 2022 to the very end of 2022. And to say the least, we got a lot of items here. So to start off, we're going to be taking a look at a collection of items that I picked up on Facebook Marketplace. It was a small, relatively amateur collection of military items. And I picked it up locally. I think I paid like $180 for the entire collection. So first off here, we're going to start off with a number of East and West German items. So firstly here, we have this West German cap. It's pretty standard. Unfortunately, it is missing the pin from the front of the hat. And it's proved to be fairly challenging trying to find a replacement. Here you can see a lot of the times the buttons are unfortunately ripped off of these for reenacting purposes, but this one is intact. You can already see I put some bags in there to maintain the shape. But here you can see some sweat staining here, and then especially up inside the top of the cap there, a lot of sweat staining and everything else. So just a very standard West German cap there. Next up here, we have this East German Border Guard visor cap. And here you can see it's just a very standard cap. I'm not even going to bother to take the bags out of this one because I'm sure many of you have seen the inside of these. Here you can see a little mark right here on the visor. But other than that, it's just your very standard East German Border Guard cap. Moving along here, we have this East German canteen, just your standard unused East German canteen set. And then we also have the insulated one to go with it. So we have a nice pair there of East German canteens. This one especially is unissued, still has some of the original button presses inside where they poke the holes out. And you can see this stamp here, made in Germany by Sturm. Moving along here, we have a couple of U.S. military oil cans, machine gun oil. I believe these are commonly used for 50 caliber machine guns, but just a couple of little throw-ins. I didn't really want them for the collection, but he didn't want to break up the collection, just wanted to sell it all together. So I don't know, maybe I'll throw these into a lot that I try to sell or something, but there's that for you. Here we have a East German mess kit, just fairly standard, looks unused, unissued again as well. Has some rust over here from storage damage, but other than that, it actually helps me try and complete a goal of mine. I'm hoping to create a totally complete East German combat uniform, and this got me one step closer. So moving along here as well, we have the last East German item. We have this East German rucksack. So here you can see, again, it's completely unissued, brand new. It's a really high quality piece, and it seems like a lot of this is unissued surplus. The guy that I bought it from said that a friend of his who collected locally gave him a bunch of free stuff whenever he stopped by, just to start his own collection. So, and he got out of it now because it's been sitting in his attic. So this was all miscellaneous stuff of the East German variety. Next up here, we have a World War II helmet liner with a name written across the front there, Eisenhart. It's not in the greatest condition, as you can see. Unfortunately, all the leather is dry rotted out of there, and some of the strapping has broken, as well as the chin strap. This is what I was told by the seller, that this did not come from that other collector buddy of his. This is actually from his family. He said it's some distant relative of his, but he had been playing with this helmet liner since he was a little kid, so he had that thrown in there as well. Unfortunately, I have a World War II era shell without a liner, so I'm going to pair these two together and have a mostly original World War II helmet and shell, or I'm sorry, shell and liner to go together for display purposes. Next up here, we have just a very standard set of leggings, some kind of like random shoestring there. So nothing special, not really worth anything, but it was included in the set there. All right, and these last two items from this small grouping here were the main reason that I bought it. So first up here, we have a 1970s or 1980s era tanker helmet or armored personnel helmet. And it's just very standard. Unfortunately, you can see it does have some damage up here. And I'm not going to take it off this mannequin head, but inside the earphone muffs are also dry rotting out of there. But overall, it's a very nice display piece, especially since I only paid $180 for this entire collection of items here. So I was happy to add this to the collection. It's a little out of the time period that I collect generally. However, I still collect all the way up to modern day. So this was a nice add to the collection, makes a great shelf piece, and this was one of the main two reasons. So on to the next thing here, which is the main reason that I picked this up, is this all-original World War II German M34 helmet. So here you can see it's a pretty interesting helmet. If you look at the inside, it is missing the leather neck flap, as most of them are. However, it does have a name written inside the liner right here. And overall, it's just a very nice example. So this one, I'm not sure where he got it from. I think he got it from the same guy. And originally, I didn't recognize the liner when I was looking at it on Facebook Marketplace, so I thought it was a post-war reissue with a different liner system in it. But after digging in a little bit more, I found a marking on the skirt on the inside, as well as I identified this liner system as a World War II era liner, so I was more than happy to figure out that this is actually an all-original version. So this made the entire buy more than worthwhile picking it up. So. And another interesting detail about this helmet, you can see in the oxidation on the outside, the development of these manufacturing lines in the steel. And then this just tells me that this was definitely a later war production with that lower quality steel. So let me get all this cleaned up and I'll move on to the next grouping of items. All right, and now I'm back with the next grouping. So this grouping is a collection of items I got when I went out antiquing a little bit before Christmas. So let's just get right into it. This came from a couple of different locations. So first of all here, we have this Desert Storm trading card booster box here. And I already had one in my collection, but this one was for a very fair price. So I decided to just pick it up. It was nice and cheap, so never hurts to add that to the collection. Then moving along here, we have a small grouping of items and photographs that I got. It's actually at a large, it's called the Screw Factory. It's in Lakewood, Ohio. And it's for like craft dealers and everything else. However, there's a couple of places there that sell antiques, and this place specializes in estate cleanouts, and they had a ton of great items for basically dirt cheap. So starting here, we have this portrait, which I have come to identify as a, I'm sorry, I don't remember the name off the top of my head. It's a rank that was discontinued in the 19th century, and I paid less than $1 for this side-by-side frame here. And I believe, if I remember correctly, this is from the 1870s, so a nice little pickup from out of the era that I usually collect. I usually don't collect pre-Spanish-American War, but this just stood out to me. It was only a couple dollars shoved inside a box with other photographs, so I figured I might as well pick it up for the collection. Moving along here, there's also this just very standard side cap. Nothing special. I think I paid like $5 for it, or not even, like $2.50, but there's that. Then moving along here, we have these two postcards of a portrait of a young man, World War I uniform on. Again, paid less than $1 for these, so picked them up out of a box of random photographs, but it's nice to have two of the same guy. And then this portrait photo here of a World War II airman. Nothing written on the back, unfortunately, but again, less than $1 for that, so I was happy to pick that up. And then a couple of things here that I actually don't have pictures of because they're too big to show on the screen, is I picked up a number of uniforms. She said that they came from a large estate of a collector, and these were the leftovers. So first up here, I'll put a picture up here, is a Egyptian military dress uniform. And here you can see a number of awards listed there. I can put the names on the screen or something if I have time for that, but it was a really nice uniform. I paid like next to nothing for it. And in addition, there's also this uniform from the 1970s, Vietnam era, actually maybe 1980s. And it belonged to a drill sergeant in the First Army, if I remember correctly. So again, really nice, semi-complete uniform. I was happy to get it for what I paid for it. And then lastly, it's just a standard 1950s khaki summer fatigue uniform. So overall, with all of these items combined, the photographs, the hat, and all these uniforms, I paid, I think it was like $40 total for everything. So I got an excellent deal. I cannot complain at all. and just happy to add these items to the collection. So then following that, we went to a different antique store and I picked up a couple of items. So here is this collection of portraits of a World War I soldier in his uniform. And this item I actually got for free from the owners of the antique store. They said that there was no price listed on it, so I took it up to the counter, asked for a price, and they said that it was originally in a frame that broke, so they said they were just going to give it away for free to whoever asked about it. So I was more than happy to add this to the collection for free. It's a really nice set of portraits, and hopefully I'll be able to find a replacement frame for it. Then moving along here, we have this early Kodak. I believe it's the Kodak 1A. The latest copyright inside is 1915. I don't feel like opening it up, to be honest with you. I'm trying to keep this video shorter. But this was a nice pickup. I like to try and pick up cameras that match the eras of different wars so that eventually when I get more space to display my items, I can have a complete display with a camera from that time period. And then lastly here, from this little grouping of antiques, another item that I don't have room to display on the screen, unfortunately, is this World War I Red Cross poster. So this was found in the basement of the antique store in a very back corner. There's no price listed on it, so I decided again to take it up to the counter. And it turned out that rather than belonging to one of the dealers that was renting out a space in this antique store, antique mall, it actually belonged to the owners. It was from her personal collection, and she said she just hadn't gotten a chance to price it yet. So we went into a little bit back and forth and ended up picking it up for $38. So it was a excellent deal on this poster. I've wanted one of these World War I posters for a really long time. I've just never been able to find one for the right price. And this one is already mounted. Unfortunately, it's not mounted the greatest. However, I'm more than happy to add this to the collection. Again, it's another thing I'll hopefully get a frame for. But for $38, you just cannot go wrong. So let me get this grouping cleaned up, and I'll move on to the next ones. All right, so next up here, we have a grouping of items that came from Christmas gifts this year. And first up here, we have this piece of parachute material from the Gettysburg Museum of History. I know sometimes these types of items get flack from a museum, and I agree that sometimes they're not well authenticated or checked out. However, this piece stood out to me, and I guess I mentioned it to a family member at some point. They decided to get that for me for Christmas. So here's that little written up thing on the front here, and then on the back you can see this piece of parachute material that the museum says that was used on D-Day by a 101st Airborne Division member. So just a nice little piece there. Happy to add that to the collection. It makes a nice little display piece, and I personally think that that story makes it fairly interesting. So moving on here, we have this just standard little home front piece here. It's a supplement to the March 1943 Reader's Digest. And this is the pocket reference guide for Army, Navy, and Marine Corps insignia. So this would say awards, ranks, etc. for the different branches. For people on the home front, if they see photographs and newsreels or family members or whatever, they'll know what those different awards are. Next up here, we have something that's not necessarily military related. It's a little history book from 1913. So something interesting there. It's kind of funny to flip through and see what they had to say about history back then in comparison to now. So nice little thing. Unfortunately, it's in pretty bad shape. The cover is completely torn off and the pages are falling apart. But I was happy to get this from my parents for Christmas. It's a cool little thing to flip through. And then lastly here, we have this Indian kukri knife that I got from my uncle for Christmas. So here you can see it has the original leather sheath. It has these fairly uncommon smaller knives as well, one being sharp and one being dull. And then if you take it out of the sheath here, you can see it has that shiny finish on the blade. And if you look down here, you also have the lion head on the butt of the handle. So generally, a lot of these were reproduced after the war. My belief is that this is a late 1940s or possibly early 1950s piece produced in India. It looks very, very similar to wartime ones. However, there's still just a couple of little characteristics off, particularly with this notch cut here, which tells me that it may not be original. However, that's still up in the air. I'm still going to do a little more research to try and figure that out for sure. All right, so that's all for the Christmas items. Let me get this next set of items ready, and I'll be back with you. All right, guys, and I'm back with these next couple items. These are some items I picked up at an antique store in southern Ohio. We took a short family trip after Christmas. just to stay in a hotel and get out of the house and just spend some time together. And we stopped by an antique store, and I found some fairly interesting stuff. So to start off here, we have a number of stereoscope cards. Here you can see it's a fort in Cuba. And for reference, these are all stereoscope cards that were published in the late 1800s, 1898, 1899, right around the time of the Spanish-American War. So fairly interesting stuff here. And then here we have a collection of stereoscope cards that were supposed to tell a story about a veteran serving in the Spanish-American War. So this one is entitled This Parting Gives Me Pain, and you can see it's the woman fighting him leaving. Here you can see it's her being sad that he is now leaving, and you can see he's in his uniform over here. It's called My Country Calls Me and I Must Go. This one is titled Sad News from the Battlefield, Jack has fallen at Santiago. And here you can see the woman is passed out on the floor. And then lastly, you have the story of the battle, our country victorious, and now a happy home. So you can see he wasn't killed, he was only injured, and now he's returned home to his woman. And unfortunately, these are only 4 out of the 6 cards in the set. However, I am fortunate enough that the 4 cards that are still around actually tell that story. So I'm very happy to add this to the collection, and it makes a fun little thing to look at in my stereoscope. All right, so moving on to the next item here, we have a standard World War II souvenir pillow cover. This one is U.S. Air Forces. And as you can see, there's not much to talk about here. I've already shown a couple of these on the channel. I think it was only like $8, including the pillow insert. So I was happy to get that for the collection. The pillow insert doesn't fit quite right, but I'm still surprised that they even included it. And then lastly here, we have another item that cannot fit on the screen, unfortunately, and that is this World War I portrait. So this one I saw, I think it was like $22 or something, so it was a spectacular deal. Unfortunately, it appears that the frame is not original. This appears to be 1940s, maybe early 1950s vintage. However, as far as I'm aware, they don't reproduce these rounded glass frames anymore either. So I'm happy that it even has a frame to go with it. However, the portrait inside is original. The frame was damaged and the glass was all dirty, so I decided to disassemble the frame and fix it up a little bit, clean it up a little bit for display, and hopefully find a good place to hang it. But yeah, so original World War I domed glass portrait. A later frame, however, it still has a frame, so I'm happy that it has a frame to protect it. All right, so that's all for this grouping. I'm going to move on to the last one and get this cleaned up, so I'll be right back. All right, and I'm back. So this last grouping of items is not anything I picked up together. These were all separate items that I picked up on Facebook Marketplace over the last couple months, and I figured I'd just group them all together for simplicity. So first up here, we have this small grouping of items I picked up. I was told by the seller that she picked them all up out of the same storage locker that she bought and was piecing out. And don't mind this price tag. That has nothing to do with the items in here. That was just a bag that I had laying around. But here you can see some dog tags here with a medical center or maybe a retirement home or nursing home name tag here with the name or with the dog tags. So I'd be interesting to do some research on that. I have his full name and everything else and his service number. So I've been trying to do a little bit of research. I haven't found much yet, though. Here we have some ration books from the Japan Central Exchange from the late 40s and early 50s. There's a couple of them in there. This one is a 7th U.S. Infantry Division in Korea non-commissioned officer book. So that's an interesting thing there. And then lastly here in the back, we have a 1950s era foreign rank and insignia recognition book. So as you can see here, it's North Korea on the back. However, it has all kinds of countries in there, basically from around the world, both enemy and ally at that time. So I'm not going to take it all out just to keep it short, but that's a nice little look at that grouping there. Next up, we have a World War I German S98/05 bayonet. It's unfortunately not in the greatest condition. You can see a lot of oxidation on the blade. I managed to get some of this to shine through, but most of this was pretty much caked in rust. I can put a lot of before pictures up here. You couldn't even read the maker's marks down there, but I just used the good old-fashioned aluminum and water trick If you rub some aluminum foil on rust with some water, there's a chemical reaction that I don't fully understand that causes the rust to break down. So now the blade is nice and smooth. It's not shiny, but it's still presentable now. I also oiled it, of course, to prevent further oxidation, and it looks pretty nice now. So I'm happy to add this one to the collection. I paid about what it's worth, but this one's dated 1916, I believe, so I'll add it to my World War I display, or maybe make it a wall hanger piece, who knows. All right, next up here, we have a very interesting piece that I actually didn't know existed until I bought it myself. Is a set of variable density goggles with the visor attachment. So a lot of people don't know about these, but these are a fairly uncommon World War II U.S. Army Air Corps piece. These were goggles that were developed by the U.S. military to issue to gunners and pilots and so forth to see tracer rounds during the daytime. So here you can see the visor on the front. So look at the goggles on the back there. The original case, and unfortunately this one was stored in a hot climate because these visors here that are flipped down are very susceptible to heat damage, and you can see here it's all completely warped and very brittle. And I actually had to do, unfortunately, a little bit of restoration work just on the visor piece here that flips down. The other ones that are supposed to be the spares were completely shattered into a bunch of just small broken pieces of red plastic. And this one was still present on the goggles, and they started to have cracks in them just from sitting still without being touched. So I decided either I don't do anything with them and they completely deteriorate and I don't have anything on the goggles, or I would put a little bit of glue on them to keep the cracks from spreading. And even though I am absolutely against restoration work if I don't have to, if I didn't do anything, these were going to completely deteriorate. So I did decide to put a little bit of glue on the back to preserve these visors. So that's all for this piece here. I am going to be producing one specific video on the history of these visors. They're a fairly underrepresented piece, and very little research has been done on them, at least that's easily accessible without doing a number of hours of research. So I've been trying to put that together for you guys, and you should see a video coming out sometime in the future discussing this topic. All right, with that out of the way, we're going to be moving on to our last item here. So I do have an entire box of these, actually. I'm not going to try and put the box on the screen. I might throw up a picture here of the box as well as the inside, but I actually picked up about 50 of these completely new in box, unissued ESM/2 emergency signaling mirrors from World War II. Now, the story is that the seller had about 300 of them sealed brand new in the packaging from his father-in-law who passed away a number of years ago. He found them in his garage. He doesn't know anything beyond that, and he was selling them on Marketplace. I picked these up locally. He was selling them for, I believe it was like $2 a piece, and I'm sure as many of you know, they go for upwards of $20 or $30 when they're brand new like this, unissued. So I decided to pick up 50 of them with one of the original cases that they came in. I've decided that I'm probably going to sell about 25, maybe 30 of them. I'm going to keep the original box and a number of them sealed brand new. But I figured that it's a nice investment to try and make some extra cash while I'm at college and get some nice pieces for the collection. So I decided to wait on opening any of these envelopes and save this one for you guys. So you're going to see a brand new unboxing of these. So here you can see one emergency signaling mirror, completely unopened envelope. Flipping open the back there, you can see down inside that rope there that they would have used to put around their neck. And let's see, I'm trying to get this out without tearing the paper too much. And here you go. So this is the original mirror. You can see it's in brand new condition, completely unissued. The rope is still creased from being folded in there for 70 plus years. And yeah, so again, happy to add this to the collection. It's a nice little display piece as well as an investment. Like I said, I'm going to try and resell some of these. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed, make sure to hit the like button, and when you're in that area, hit the subscription button and notification bell. I have plenty of other videos just like this coming in the near future, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!